I had this engine up at Fort Scott in the back of my pickup. At the show running, just in the back of my pickup. And this old guy comes up there and he's a-looking at it. He's a-looking at it. I said, you ever see one of them? Yeah, I got one. You do? I says, what size is it? Well, I don't know. I ain't seen it in 30 years. What? He said, yeah, it's out there in my barn. But he said, I live a long ways from here. I said, well, I bet you my Dodge pickup will get there and back. So he told me where he lived. Following week, I was going right by there. I was going to Chicago and going right by his place. So I stopped there at his house. I told him what day I'd be coming by, and okay, yeah, I'll be there. I went there, and he shows me all around through all the old buildings that he had. And the last building he showed me had one of these engines, but it wasn't the tank cooled. It was it wasn't the hopper cooled. It was a tank cooled one. 2.5 horse, same thing, just like it. And I said, well, what do you want for it? And he told me. I just pulled the money out and paid him. So I backed up. I had unhooked my trailer, and I backed up to his barn. And I had the boom on my truck, and I swung it around there, and I hooked onto the engine, pulled it out of the barn. It had dirt and dust, and it had junk tin and stuff all piled all over this engine. It was in the barn. And I pulled it out, and when I was pulling it out, he runs around the building, comes back with the generator that went with it. And I paid him. I had it on my truck all tied down. Out come his wife out of the house. What are you doing with my engine? He said, I sold it. I'm 82 years old and we don't have no kids. So I said, this guy wanted to buy it, and I sold it. Oh, she got mad at him. They had the darnest squabble you ever seen. So she takes off, heads towards the house, and all I could think of, she was going to get the shotgun. And this just happened a couple years ago, after I bought this one. So when she took off towards the house, I went and got my truck, backed up to my trailer, and I was hooking up my trailer so I could get out of there. And backed up there and I hooked onto it. The door was still open on the truck and the motor was running, and the time I got the jack hooked up to it, there she was. Now she's griping at me. How much you pay for that engine? I wouldn't say nothing. He takes off, heads towards the house. And finally I said, well, you know what, lady, I bought this engine and I'm gonna get it running. I'm gonna take it to the shows. You've had it for 30 years, you've never did nothing with it. And I said, I'm gonna get it running. Well, the more I talked to her, the nicer she got. And finally she was happy that I bought it. You know, at the first she was mad. Well, and it's a 2.5 horse, just like this, but it's a tank cooled one. So I was really happy to get it. And I haven't started it up, I haven't got it running, but I'm going to. And I need to get it going real quick. But it's got a tank, it's a galvanized tank that sits up here in front. And then the little gas tank here. And well, later I went back to this guy's house and I says, why was that engine, why is she saying that engine's hers? Well, he said 30 years ago he was at work, he couldn't go to this farm sale. So he sent his wife there to buy this engine. Well, the engine went for more than he told her to pay for it. So she wound up buying the engine. So that's why it was her engine. So I said, well, how much was it back then? Well, he thought, and he says, well, I think it was $200 or $300 she had paid for this engine, that one that I have at home. So I don't know who wound up with the money when I left, but I'm sure it was cash money, and I'm sure she had the money.